For centuries, the story was settled. Over 2,000 bodies pulled from northern Europe's peat bogs, skin intact, expressions still frozen after millennia, were dismissed as executed criminals and discarded outcasts. That entire narrative traces back to one Roman author, and it went unchallenged for generations. Then, ancient DNA and isotope analysis reopened the case. These people were not who anyone thought they were. Across the peatlands of northern Europe, more than 2,000 bodies have surfaced, each one a time capsule sealed in the earth for centuries. Their skin, hair, even the lines on their hands remain, as if the bogs themselves refused to let them vanish. This preservation is no accident of nature. The secret lies in the chemistry of the peat. Sphagnum moss, the main architect of these wetlands, releases acids that lower the pH to around 3 or 4, strong enough to halt the bacteria that would normally break down flesh. Waterlogged, airless conditions smother decay, while natural tannins from the moss bind with proteins in skin and tissue, turning them supple and dark, almost like leather. Bones dissolve into the peat, but soft tissue, hair, and even the contents of a last meal can endure for millennia. These bogs do not just preserve bodies, they preserve mysteries, holding on to every wrinkle, every strand of hair, every trace of a life interrupted. The scale of these finds, scattered from Denmark to Ireland and beyond, makes clear that this was not a local oddity, but a phenomenon woven into the landscape and culture of ancient Europe. In the 1st century AD, the Roman historian Tacitus wrote of Germanic tribes punishing cowards and traitors by pressing them under wicker hurdles into bogs. His words were, "The coward, the shirker, and the corpora infamis are pressed into the slimy mud of a bog." Those words became more than a distant account. By the 20th century, this single passage had been elevated to dogma. Museum placards in Denmark, Britain, and Germany echoed the same refrain, that these were criminals, executed and discarded. The story was simple, almost convenient, an explanation that fit the grim spectacle of bodies pulled from the peat. In the 1960s, P.V. Glob's best-selling book, The Bog People, enshrined Tacitus as the authority. Curators followed suit, labeling display cases with phrases like criminal sacrifice, reinforcing the idea that every bog body was a victim of tribal justice. For decades, this narrative shaped public understanding, echoed in documentaries and reinforced by museum guides. The criminal tale became so embedded that few questioned whether it truly fit the evidence, or whether it was ever more than a Roman's outsider gaze, frozen in time and peat. Grauballe Man's hair, styled high and stiff, held its shape for over 2,000 years thanks to a sticky dark gel. Chemical analysis traced the ingredients to castor and pine resins, oils imported from the Mediterranean, hundreds of miles from his home in Iron Age Ireland. This was not the grooming habit of a condemned outcast, but a luxury reserved for someone of standing, someone who could command goods from distant shores. Old Grauballe Man's hands tell a similar story. His fingernails, still smooth and neatly trimmed, show no sign of the grinding wear left by rope, soil, or hard labor. Forensic reports describe them as manicured, closer to those of a chieftain or a craftsman than a common criminal. The skin, thick and unbroken, hints at a life far removed from the peat cutters who uncovered him. Grauballe Man, pulled from Danish peat, bore a different kind of mark. A throat sliced so deeply it reached the spine. Yet this was only one of several wounds. In body after body, the same pattern repeats: a heavy blow to the head, strangulation, then a final cut. This sequence, deliberate and excessive, is now recognized as ritual overkill. It stands in stark contrast to the single, efficient violence of execution. Instead, it suggests a script, a ceremony, a sacrifice meant for more than simple punishment. Each of these clues, from imported oils to manicured nails to triple wounds, raises new questions. If the bogs held only the despised and discarded, why do so many bodies bear signs of privilege? The evidence demands a closer look, and science is about to provide the tools to answer. deep inside the world's cleanest laboratories, ancient DNA extraction begins with a single fragment, hair, tooth, or bone, lifted from bog, darkened flesh. Every step unfolds in a sterile, pressurized room where technicians wear full suits to fend off the faintest trace of modern contamination. The sample is ground, soaked in chemicals, and filtered, releasing DNA molecules that have survived centuries of acid and time. Next to this, isotope analysis works a different kind of magic. Scientists drill a sliver from a tooth's enamel, dissolving it to measure the ratios of strontium and oxygen, chemical fingerprints absorbed from childhood food and water. These values are matched against detailed geological maps, revealing where a person grew up sometimes, down to a single valley or hill. Lindow Man, unearthed from the peat of Cheshire, has become a case study in how these methods overturn old certainties. His DNA, sequenced from preserved skin, links him to Western European lineages common among Iron Age elites. But it is the strontium 87 to strontium 86 ratio from his teeth that breaks the script. Instead of matching local Cheshire values, Lindow's ratio sits off the regional baseline, hinting at a childhood spent far from the bog where he was found. He was not a local criminal, but a traveler, a man whose journey spanned landscapes and cultures. Hair analysis, measuring carbon and nitrogen isotopes, fills in the rest. His diet was rich in freshwater fish and terrestrial meat, far more varied and protein-heavy than the average farmer or laborer. The science is clear. Lindow wasn't an outcast. He was someone of standing, perhaps even a guest, whose life and death were shaped by networks and rituals that reached beyond any single village or tribe. Each data point, genome, isotope, and diet peels back the layers of myth, leaving behind a portrait of an Iron Age world far more connected and far more complex than Tacitus ever imagined. Patterns in the lab results have begun to overturn the old story. When researchers mapped the origins of dozens of bog bodies using strontium and oxygen isotopes, a surprising number stood out as outsiders, people who spent their childhoods far from the bogs where they were found. The chemical signatures in their teeth and bones cluster not with local farmers or laborers, but with distant regions, sometimes hundreds of kilometers away. DNA analysis tells a similar story. These individuals share genetic markers common among Iron Age elites, not the marginalized or the criminal. Their diets, reconstructed from nitrogen and carbon isotopes, reveal a level of privilege. High values for marine and terrestrial protein, including freshwater fish, pork, and even imported foods, set them apart from the subsistence diet of the average villager. In some cases, chemical traces of luxury goods, such as Mediterranean plant oils or rare textiles, confirm access to far-reaching trade networks. This is not the record of the poor or the reviled. The repeated pattern of ritual overkill, multiple wounds delivered in a set sequence, suggests a deliberate performance, not a hurried execution. Scholars now propose that many of these bodies belonged to a mobile, high-status class, diplomatic hostages, envoys, or ritual specialists whose lives were woven into the politics and beliefs of Iron Age Europe. The bog became a boundary space, a stage for ceremonies that demanded more than punishment. They demanded a complete, sacred offering. Each body, meticulously prepared and placed, points to a society where status and mobility intersected with sacrifice, and where the most valued outsiders could become the most powerful symbols. Inside Tollund Man's stomach, the final meal tells its own story. Scientists have cataloged more than 40 types of seeds, grains, and wild plants, all blended into a porridge that was anything but ordinary. Barley, flax, and knotweed dominate the mix, but what stands out is the unmistakable trace of ergote, a fungus laced with psychoactive alkaloids. Modern gas chromatography and mass spectrometry leave no doubt that ergot was present in measurable amounts, enough to induce visions or delirium. Alongside these findings, microcomputed tomography scans have revised Tollund's age downward, now placing him at about 22 years old, not the middle-aged man once imagined. The care in preparing this meal, the choice of ingredients, and the deliberate inclusion of mind-altering fungi suggest a ritual act, not a hurried Last Supper. Tollund's porridge was crafted for a purpose, part of a ceremony that blurred the line between nourishment and transcendence. The ripple effects of these discoveries reach far beyond the bogs themselves. Ancient DNA and isotope analysis have cracked open a window onto Iron Age society, revealing a world of mobile elites, long-distance trade, and ritual practices that defy the old stereotypes. But this new picture is only as clear as the data behind it. Researchers now call for denser, region-specific isotope baselines, known as isoscapes, to sharpen the resolution of origin studies, especially in places like the Irish Midlands and the Baltic Rim, where the current maps are patchy. At the same time, the ethics of destructive sampling have come to the fore. Museums and scientists are working together to refine protocols, limiting sample size, and consulting with local communities before any new tissue is removed. The next breakthroughs will depend on both better data and deeper collaboration, as the scientific community balances the drive for discovery with the need to respect these ancient lives. Today, ancient DNA exposes how easily the living misread the dead. As science rewrites Europe's oldest stories, every new result challenges what we think we know about belonging, belief, and fate. The bogs still keep secrets, reminding us that the past is never as silent as it seems.